What do learning Japanese and playing piano by ear have in common? For some odd reason, because those are two things I'm learning right now, I've been making a lot of correlations between the two. And I think one thing that I noticed today when I was listening to a Japanese podcast is I'm trying to use the technique of listening first, sort of, for learning Japanese, which means by listening a lot, even if you don't know the meaning of what they're saying, eventually your brain will figure out patterns to be able to hear words despite not knowing what they mean, and eventually assign meaning to those words through context. So that's like a technique that people use to try to gain fluency over listening first and then eventually speaking. And one thing I noticed was it doesn't work passively. You have to do it actively. So, for instance, I've been listening to podcasts a lot for the past 2 months, but passively. So I kind of just am exercising while doing it. I actually just went to the gym and I listen to the podcast while I'm doing gym stuff and working out and exercising. So oftentimes I'm like splitting my focus between the two, I guess. But more so recently, I told myself I really need to like actually practice both input and output. So listening and also speaking it. So that's what I do at night when I'm stretching before sleeping. I listen to a podcast and then I basically try my best to say what they're saying. And that activated something in me that felt similar to music, actually. So before we get to the analogy, I'll say that this has helped a lot. I feel like I'm progressing again regarding my listening practice and speaking practice. I feel like I'm moving instead of just staying still. There's like a huge difference when you feel that for language learning and Japanese and stuff. So it feels good. I can hear words distinctly. Like even if I have no idea what it means, I can hear it as a word. And this is how it relates to playing by ear for piano. So recently I've decided that I'm going to restart my piano journey, and it's on this piece of paper, I guess, like if it will focus. But what I'm saying for the relationship between language and playing by ear, I've been making a lot of videos about that. So letters and words and sentences, paragraphs, and so on. So most of the time when we're learning, we start off with words when we're like a baby or a kid. We're learning vocabulary. We're building our vocabulary to be able to understand sentences better. But for playing by ear, for piano, for whatever reason, all the focus is learning letters, scale degrees. And it's true when we're in kindergarten, we're like, we're practicing the alphabet, which is like the scale degrees for playing by ear, like listening. But the difference is by the time we're in kindergarten, we know how to speak already. We know words quite well. So it's easier to learn letters when you know words already. But the issue for me, what I've been playing by ear, like practicing, is that I hardly know words. I think that my vocabulary for words is very low, basically, in piano. Like, it's not, and here's another difference, is the active listening part. So when you listen to music, right, and you sing it back, that's basically auditory input and then auditory output. So if you can sing back the measure or the sentences, the phrases, like all of it accurately, then you're basically practicing your vocabulary as long as you have like a memory recollection of that. It becomes part of your vocabulary if you're, like I said, if you're able to remember it and sing it back at any point in time accurately. And I suppose it's not like I have a lot of words where I don't know the meaning of it, I suppose. Not necessarily like I have no words for music because, there are very famous pieces and famous melodies and everything that most people can somewhat sing. But that's how I correlate words with piano by ear. So basically when you're listening to Japanese and you can hear the words but you don't know what they mean, but you can say it, that's the equivalent for a piano of, or just music in general, of being able to sing it back. Like you have the memory of it and you also can output it as well. The missing link is the meaning. So the meaning, I started to actually correlate with this, my color visualizer. Because the meaning of music, I guess, in the theoretical sense, is the distances between notes and how things relate to each other. So it's basically just intervals and rhythm. So that's all of music. So it's just pitches, like, and how they spatially relate to each other in terms of both rhythm, time, and also pitch quality. So, and timbre. So this visualizer right here is a representation of the meaning of music, basically. So by, I guess if you've not watched a video of me explaining this is just the first degree, second degree, third degree of a major scale. And if you want to do a minor scale instead, this is the first degree, second degree, third degree, and so on. But when I started listening to music again with all of this framework in my head, I started to, see how it moves together. And I sort of have like a construction in my head for what that word is now, like what a measure is for a certain melody. So I can see it in my head. I can see this playing in my head. And it helps a lot because I can see the true distances. I can also see the different qualities of the degrees. And I can see it together. I can see how it works together more so. So eventually for Japanese, you want to attach the word to a meaning, either by learning it through context or by, looking it up. And the way I feel like the way that works for music is if you have a lot of words with the same letters in them, eventually you'll be able to recognize the letters better. Like you're doing it just through context. Like you're continuously saying different words with the same letters, and then you just know how to spell it afterwards. The way I put this in my piano channel is like an example that's clear is like I'm starting my journey, right? If you read that, like, and you ask someone, did you hear every single letter that I said? They're probably going to be like, no, because they can hear the words very clearly because the words are they're like constructions, they're solid in our heads. But like every individual letter, not really. Like say that to a kid who doesn't know how to spell, they'll know the word, but they won't be able to say every single letter. But there's this expectation that when you're playing by ear, you somehow can hear every single letter all the time. I don't think that's true. I think being able to hear words is just enough. Like having such a strong vocabulary with a lot of different words in it all the time, different rhythm, different patterns, will help you eventually just be able to know the words. It's like hearing the scale or hearing a famous piece, and if you know that the scale is 1 through 7 and 7 back to 1, ascending and descending scale, you don't need to know every letter. You already know what every letter is based on the fact that you know the word of the scale. So what I'm proposing, I guess, and what I'm trying to do now, I've been practicing for about 4 days now, is I'm going to build up my vocabulary of music. I'm gonna be able to sing back, have a memory recall of a lot of different phrases, individual measures and phrases, and just be able to transpose them to any key to understand the true meaning. And then from that, I believe the letters will start to become more clear to me because I'll sort of start understanding them more through the context of these two things versus just focusing on them individually. Because a lot of the playing by ear stuff, like the ear training apps, all of it is just like always individual scale degrees that you're focusing on. And there's also exercises that's like melodic dictation where they play random notes for you. And to me, I compare that to like for instance, if you were to write something that has no meaning, like just a bunch of letters, a word with a bunch of letters that don't make sense together. And then you're asking someone to like, you say it, and then you ask someone to spell it out. It's kind of pointless. It's a word that has no meaning because it's like random letters. That's a lot of what I feel the ear training apps do. They just give you random letters with no real like meaning behind it. So there's no point. It's like it's never going to help you with actually playing by ear for a real song. So learning real patterns that are very common is going to help you way more than just like somehow mastering the ability to unscramble weird words together. I hope that analogy makes sense. I feel like this has become very top of my head, and that's why I'm talking about it so much. But I feel like this connection between me learning Japanese and me learning playing by ear at the same time has led me to all of these thoughts, and just, yeah, it's just made me think about this so much to the point where I'm like making a lot of correlations. And I know some of these things could be flawed, but I feel like it's true. I feel like the whole idea behind letters, words, and sentences like work together really well when it comes to music. And the thing about words is that harmony is also involved. So when you're learning like Beethoven's Für Elise, that melody pattern, there's an implied harmony that it's in A minor. So it's like important to realize that. So that's one big difference between Japanese and learning a language and learning playing by ear, is that you have to always take into account harmony. So very important, because it's part of the word. It's like you cannot detach harmony from the word. And that's what that's what a lot of, I feel, the apps try to do. They always basically try to make you focus on the letters individually with no harmony context, harmono context. And it makes it kind of pointless. Like you can be a master at recognizing every scale degree with no harmono context, and then once you have harmono context, it becomes super hard, and it's basically like you just practice for nothing, because you're practicing individual letters versus actually everything together. Hopefully I made my point clear. I basically said very similar things in my previous video, except for this one. I basically added in the idea behind active listening, which is, for Japanese, you're hearing individual words. You want to get to that point where everything you're hearing is not a blur, but every word is solid. Same with music. You don't have to understand every degree, but you should be able to sing back every degree like correctly, accurately. But you don't have to understand it. You don't have to know that it's the first degree, second degree, third degree, or whatever. But you need to be able to accurately sing it back and have it in your head as like a solid word, if that makes sense. And then eventually, by having so much of that and then learning the meaning of it, because you don't want to just like know a whole bunch of words you don't know the meaning to, eventually you learn the meaning of it, like what degree it is, and then like you have to keep that meaning solid, right? And then you just pile that on, like so many words, so many phrases that you know now, and you know the meaning of all of it. And eventually your brain will pattern recognize like the individual letters and degrees on their own. That is what I believe will happen, but we'll find out. We'll find out. Also, this might be a flawed experiment for myself because I'm actually pretty decent at recognizing scale degrees already. I'm not saying don't practice this at all. I still feel like there's value in practicing it, but I feel like this is more important, especially since like, you learn how to say things first, and you know the meaning of it first in word form, and then you eventually learn the letters. Okay, that's enough for me on this one. Hopefully that can help someone out there. I don't know if someone out there might be learning both Japanese and playing by ear. I mean, like learning any language, basically, I feel like you can still understand this. But yeah, this is just what my life has brought me to, like learning Japanese and playing by ear at the same time. And I just feel like there's just so many correlations that I've been making and noticing, and I feel like it can definitely help with actually making the playing by ear journey easier and better, because I feel like no one talks about this. I feel like everyone talks about like degree recognition for playing by ear, and that's it. It's like this is the entirety of the ear training sphere right here. And I I just feel like they're missing so much of the picture, you know? Okay, that's it for this one. Catch you guys in the next one.